Hello there. Yeah, no, we would like to actually, or I would like to share information with you with regard to our life. They say that the truth is an offense, but not a sin. And what I'm going to do today is to share you the truth of light, which we have been seeking for it for a long time. And if we can actually understand how things works, then we will actually understand our role here on actually planet Earth. And we must actually understand how everything actually works and where do we come from exactly, and then um, who are we, and who made us? That's actually the main question that has been puzzling many of us scientists and also philosophers and prophets, Sadducees, priests. Every individual who's actually here on this planet has been puzzled by where we come from. And I want to actually explain that to you. I've got a very simple thing. There is actually two pyramids which I want to actually share with you. The one pointing upwards and the one pointing downwards. And these two pyramids actually tells us many things, and I will explain bit by bit while I'm talking. So I would like to actually share with you this. I will put it on the screen just now. Let's put it on the screen and we can talk through it. Yeah, here we are. We got this pyramid on the screen, and we would like to explain the one on the left hand side. Ignore the one on the right hand side for now. We'll talk about it. So the one on the left hand side that's pointing downwards, it actually represents the spiritual world, and below that one of the spiritual world, we've got the roots, which is actually God, or God and Lord God, which is actually the source of creation, the spiritual world and the universe. So that's actually the spirit of God in that regard. And the pyramids that's pointing downwards, its roots is actually coming from God, Lord God himself. And we got the pyramid pointing upwards, which is actually the living pyramid, which is you, Papa, Mama, ancestors, which are on the spiritual world. If you can look at it, is Adam and Eve, and ancestors. What I want to actually explain on the pyramid that's pointing downwards, you must actually remember that there's two things. There is body and spirit. So the spirit can leave the body. The body cannot leave the spirit. Only the spirit can leave the body. So you must actually remember that. It's like when you actually have two cars, blue one and the red one. And you drive the red one, you go somewhere else, you come back home, you change and you take the blue one. So the car cannot drive you, but you will drive the car. You will choose which one will drive. You will drive the red one or the blue one. So the spirit is actually like that. So the spirit drives the body, just like you driving a car, and the spirit is driving many of us with different characters and different experience. So it's still the same spirit that's actually driving us from body to body. There's no different. We just actually have multiplied from our grandparents through reproduction. I will explain reproduction later on. What's reproduction all about? What's happening there? So, but for now, you must remember that the spirit is the only driver for the body, not the other way around. So the spirit will leave the body, and then the body will actually remain behind. So that's actually very very important to actually bear in mind. So just like if you in the Bible it said God breathed life into the nostril of Adam, so it's actually the same as compared to us when somebody dies, we say he passed away, but the body remained behind, but the spirit has actually went out. So it went out of the body. So it went out of the body, or we can call it a soul. The soul went out of the body. So when his soul went out of the body, he's actually no longer with us. He's actually passed away. So whoever said that the Bible is not talking through is a plain example, the plain example that I've actually said it to you, because God breathed life into Adam, and Adam became a living being. So, and when Adam dies, he leaves his body behind, and then the spirit goes out. Even us today, we still like that. When a person dies, he leaves his body behind, and the spirit goes. So, and we bury the body, and then we will be actually putting a tombstone that will say so and so has actually died on this day, and this, and then you put words of condolences or words of cheering up that person for what he did. Because if it wasn't that person, like for instance, if it's your grandmother that passed away, if it wasn't for your grandmother, you won't be here. So your grandmother actually gave you life in terms of a body wise. He gave you life body wise. Spiritual wise is still the spirit of God. Body wise, your grandmother gave you life. So that's actually very important to grab it. So your ancestors gave you body, gave you the body, all right, because of the creation of God. Because God created the body from the start, and your ancestors actually carry on and produce you. And then once they produce you, you die. When you die, your spirit actually goes through the heavens. So that's basically how it is. But there's some other people who talk about this and that and that. We'll talk about the spirit going to the heaven, and the spirit of they say the spirit of evil, spirit of good, and whatever. So we'll talk about it, then we'll take it from there. And then we can actually explain all the how everything works. So basically, that's actually what I wanted you to grab on those pyramids, because the pyramid that's pointing downwards is actually pointing out the spiritual world. The one that's actually pointing upwards is actually the living. Is your papa and your mother. If your ancestors are still living, that's actually a bonus for you. So your ancestors are still living. So those who actually are dead, they form a base for you, because why they form a base? They created you. They gave your mother and gave your ancestors, your grand or grandmother, some information, and they convey to your papa and your mama, and from there that information was taken to you. Sometimes that chain of reaction has been broken. I mean, this nowadays that chain has been broken. So TV has taken all these things, unfortunately, but that's actually how it is. So now this is actually coming back, and this information is actually there, but it needs for a person to actually have understanding of what it's all about. And basically, so if you look at the pyramid on the right hand side, we combine the two pyramids. As I said, your ancestors will be a base where you will find in African countries, they'll praise ancestors. When they praise ancestors, you're praising the person who was actually being directed by God, and he actually did wonders when the flesh and the spirit was one. So that person, we recognize him, and we sometimes have ceremonies to appreciate that person. But that person has to be appreciated, and God needs to be appreciated as well, because that person has two things in him. He had a flesh and he had a spirit. So So the spirit was a driver. So was a driver for the vehicle. So when we remember our grandmothers who actually were doing beautiful things and who actually created pyramids and they did wonderful things, is because God was directing them, and they actually found out how the whole thing is associated. Hence, you will see this pyramid. We join the pyramid together. The one on the left hand side, you will see the one on the right hand side has been joined together, and that has been joined together for for actually understanding of our ancestors are actually a base to us. We look at them and see what they've done. We're not talking about people who haven't done anything. We're talking about people who have actually put legacies forward. So those are the people that you look forward, and you look at life in different eye when you listen to those people. So those people are people. They feed people with the information or feed people with knowledge to conduct themselves properly while they're living with flesh and spirit. So hence that pyramid of actually the one that's pointing upwards and the one that's pointing downwards combined together. So the one that's pointing upwards, as you can see at the top there, is actually you, and then at the bottom is actually ancestors, spiritual world, and then below that then there's ancestors of the living, and below that there's actually Adam. So Adam is always a root from God and Lord God into Adam, because remember, I put God and Lord God because in the Bible they talk about consensus. There was a consensus. The God said, let us create men in our own image, and they created men, but there was consensus of the gods, and hence the God and Lord God are totally different things. But we'll explain it later on the other chapters. I don't want to dwell into that. There's a difference between God and Lord God. So we have to actually understand those kind of things. And um, this pyramid, as you can say, the root, the one on the right hand side, the root from God was Adam, and from there we had ancestors, Adam and Eve, and we have Adam and Eve, we have the ancestors which are in the spiritual world. So as you can see, as when you start from the top, all right, and then when you start from the top, you start from the top, all right. If you go back, let's go back on the left hand side, let me explain it properly here. You start from the top, all right, so you become you, and then the mother and father actually made you. Then you come down, you go to be a father, all right, or you can become to be a mother, all right, and then on top of there, that will be your son, and then your son, once your son has actually produced grandparents, has produced another son or daughter, then you become the ancestor, you become the grandmother, grandfather of the living, because now you can see the other generation actually, another generation that was produced from you. So basically, that's actually how it is. So you've been pushed downwards, and then immediately, when you are a grandfather, grandmother, or grandmother, you are close to the spiritual world. Then you enter, you passed away, you enter into the spiritual world, and spiritual world. That's actually where in the spiritual world you can it actually continues. So you start with the ancestors, you go back, you go through Adam and Eve and all those kind of things, and then you reborn again. So you go back on the spiritual world, you reborn again to Adam and Eve, and you reborn to Adam, and then you actually go back to God. Your spirit goes back to God. So basically, that's actually how it is. So it actually starts from there and then goes below. That's maybe you understand it much more better by explaining. So hence those pyramids on the right hand side mix together. So those pyramids made together means that the living and the spiritual world must live in harmony with one another. One mustn't actually do things alone and accelerate more than the other. Because if one accelerates more than the other, then there's chaos. Like now, what we found is, if you look at the spirit, the pyramid on the left hand side, you'll see that many human beings right now, they just live for the sake of living. They don't even care about the spiritual life. So, and what's actually happening now is chaos. We got chaos. I can, this, we have got earthquakes. We got problems. We got, we got the poor getting poorer, the rich are getting richer. So it's actually problems of great proportion that our planet is experiencing, and people don't know what's actually the value of being a person. They go and do sexual abuse. They go and take drugs. They do all sorts of things because people are not aware of who they are. So then, because those things don't live harmony in another, because the right hand side is the harmony. So once the harmony is there, then you can know, brothers, how the pyramid were created and how was everything created. Because now the spirit, spirit, the spirit and the body knows that they have to live in harmony. So if there is harmony between the spirit and the body, then that's actually a good thing, and that's why you will find that many people in the olden days were actually many people in the olden days, which will represent in the right hand side, were living longer years than people now. People now, we die quickly. I mean, we die at the age of 60. And people say, no, it's the food that we eat. No, it's not the food that we eat. It's actually the spiritual. Because once you actually combine the spiritual and your body is actually in harmony, then I'm telling you, not even food can actually affect you if that is the case. If they're trying to poison you, there's nothing that would happen because your spirit and your body actually lives in harmony. So the spirit will tell you, okay, the body is poison. So you need to actually maybe get a medicine to do that, and then you get medicine, you drink, and you can become alright. You destroy that poison. So basically, that's actually how it is. So nothing will actually really affect you. There is actually a movie called Thor, Thor or Thorn or something like that. Thor, I think, the guy with the sledgehammer, where he goes into the pub and he drinks quite a large volume of alcohol and he doesn't get drunk, because that's actually after he was thrown out of heaven. So that movie, and he comes to earth, and then he actually gets some other oak, and they went drink, and some other oak who was actually a living being drink, and he was pissed. If they call it, oh, he was drunk. Let's put it this way, not pissed. So he was drunk, and the guy with the slash hammer on Thor, I think it's Thor or something. I can't remember the name, but anyway, the guy with a hammer. So that movie. So basically, if it's in harmony, there's nothing that will happen to you. So if your spirit and the body is in harmony, anything that you take in doesn't affect, because that's actually in harmony. But at this point in time, even myself, included, actually in the pyramid, actually, the spirit and the body hasn't come to where it needs to. But you're working towards the harmonious thing. So harmonious between the spirit and the body. So those has to live hand in hand. Because if you can take, like for instance, people who drink, and they will actually drink, and they get to a point where they are knocked off. All right, so you drink so heavily, you intoxicate their body so heavily that you can't remember anything. And you are in the pub and you drink heavily, you can't remember anything, and then you manage to actually go home, and then you say, how do I did that? You did that because of the spirit. The spirit actually drives you. Remember, the spirit drives you. The spirit cannot get drunk. The body will get drunk, but not the spirit. That's important. So, so you will take and you will drink the body, you intoxicate the body, but you won't intoxicate the spirit because the spirit you cannot intoxicate. So, so now the spirit will take you home because now the spirit will be in charge of you taking you home. Because what? Because God is in you, and then you think, okay, my son is drunk. This is one of the experience. So let me take him home, and then he take you home. So and then he take you home. But I'm not saying promote you guys to drink like that. It's not right because and sometimes you end up actually 6 feet underground. You shouldn't actually do those things. You shouldn't talk intoxicate. That's why I was saying we are actually on the pyramid on the left where the spirit the living with the spirit and the spiritual is far apart. So when it's far apart, it's chaos. So, but when they are joined together, it's actually harmonious.
Yeah, we will live in peace if we understand to balance, to know our spiritual being and our physical being. And once we know all those things exist together, that's actually where we can actually start knowing ourselves better and knowing our God better. And now we can even ask, and God can provide. But at this moment in time, many people ask, God doesn't provide because you don't understand how things work. So we must actually all understand, including myself. I mean, I'm not saying I do understand. I do understand all these things. I'm actually being taught as well, taught by the Spirit, all these things. So I'm learning as we go along. I mean, there's some other things which I'm experiencing as well, which is actually a learning curve for me. It's not that I know everything. I don't know everything. God knows everything. So I'm actually be guided by the Spirit. And once you open up for the Spirit inside you, that's actually where things actually flow to you. But if you haven't actually opened up for God in you and the God's actually in you, then it's a bit of a problem. So that's actually how it is. I wanted to talk to you about all that it's all about with regard to the pyramid. And we must actually understand this that in life we shouldn't argue about characters and say Adam and Eve, and then there was no Adam and there was no Eve and all this kind of thing. Those are characters. When you read in the Bible, it's characters in the Bible. Say Adam and Eve. But the main thing is, are you catching up what they are saying? That's the main thing. That's why most of the passage in the Bible they will say this calls for the words of wisdom, because if you don't understand the way, or if you don't have wisdom with you, you won't really understand what they're trying or talking about. There's quite a lot of information in there, and hopefully I can share some of the information with you, and we can go step by step. I mean, it's not that I will do it alone. I'm going to do it with you guys. Those who wants to actually find the true light. Those who are actually they have the intention in them to actually find the true light. I mean, there are some people out there who wants to criticize everything. Who want them to be actually upfront and criticize whatever people do. So we just have to take it as positive criticism. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's work towards that. We'll discuss in some other chapter or some other episode about some of the things that we should know, and we can conduct ourselves better. Thank you very much.